Hello, I'm Mike Duxbury. Let me take you through a few UX trends that I noticed at the Geneva Motorshow in 2016. Ferrari's tinkering with the steering wheel continues with the GT4C Lusso. They've now evolved the already odd indicator buttons to extend from the front of the steering wheel towards the back. They probably did this because all their customers are used to indicating with a stalk in their daily driver and find the Ferrari approach a little infuriating. So this tweak now lets you use your index finger to indicate, only it's nowhere near as comfortable as a usual stalk. The rest of the steering wheel is inexplicably bursting with buttons. Why put the wiper settings at the driver's fingertips? Just why? Next, take the BMW 7 Series with gesture control. To change volume, remove a hand from the wheel, move it to the middle of the car, and draw circles with your finger. This is nowhere near as easy, accurate, or safe as the buttons I use on my VW steering wheel. Finally, Volvo use a clever infrared technology to detect your finger just before it touches the screen. But if your finger hovers just over the screen, like we do while thinking of our next selection, it's way too easy to make a selection in error. Manufacturers get that perceptions of quality are influenced by how their product looks and feels. Carbon fiber bodywork and clever lighting concepts all build a sense of craftsmanship and quality. Pagani and Spyker do a fantastic job of making their high-quality interiors feel special. Really special. Really unusable, but really special. And this sense of tactile quality should be part of the HMI too. Take a look at the new Aston Martin DB11. Beautiful to look at, but get inside and it's more James May than James Bond, with the infotainment system straight from a Mercedes A-Class. So how can HMI influence perceived quality? For a start, with hardware that performs, high-resolution displays, really deep blacks on screen, reliability and responsiveness. Look, even Peugeot can get this stuff right. Quick responses and a system beep as the button is pressed, not half a second afterwards. A responsive system on quality hardware make a system pleasant and safe to use. When all controls used to be knobs, buttons and levers, they stayed in the same place. They simply couldn't move. So HMI was easily learned, predictable and ultimately instinctive to use. With touchscreens in the ascendancy, users are making do without tactile feedback. That wouldn't be such a problem if some manufacturers didn't keep moving these buttons around. As you can see, button placement on this Peugeot is unpredictable. They're always in a different place, in a different layout, and moving back and forth to access them obscures screen content, which means users need a double take to check that they've made the right selection. Another challenge with dynamic displays is that they potentially have many permutations, and they don't always look good in every permutation. There's a lot of vacant space initially on this £80,000 BMW, but yet that logo is still the tightest of fits between the two dials. Cars take years to develop and hopefully they stay around for much longer. So developing a classic or timeless user interface is always a challenge. Renault, Peugeot and Ford are still using interfaces with wide visible gutters, borders around buttons and gratuitous gradients and shadows. This latest design from Ford looks like a kiosk selling train tickets in the late 90s. It's not an easy problem to solve, but the minimal approach used by some of the smaller manufacturers feels like the right way to go. Koenigsegg and Rimac designs use the whole screen. They avoid borders and use icons rather than buttons. It's hard to say, but it feels like they will age better than Ford has. Maserati decided to go for an IKEA-themed display in the Levant, their first SUV. Renault too have made some poor colour choices. I could see myself never using eco mode simply to avoid that garish green. Some manufacturers still arbitrarily colour code parts of the infotainment system, creating a bit of a Christmas tree effect without adding much utility. Just because screens have 16 million colours, it doesn't mean we need to use them all. Colour schemes that work best seem to be black and grey based, with consistent use of white and a vivid accent colour to pick out key elements. For example, Volvo, Koenigsegg, and the in-house system developed by electric hypercar maker Rimac. The Rimac solution may be a bit laggy, but it's impressively detailed. Menus are a way of organising things, and for some reason, presumably aesthetic, big manufacturers don't like simple, consistent menus. BMW is the main culprit here. In the driver display, we have a horizontal menu to select an app, and the cycling is triggered on repeat press of a menu button. Selecting a primary menu item opens a secondary menu which scrolls vertically. Mercedes do the same, mixing vertical and horizontal menus, which produces errors and distraction. Though I love a lot about the Volvo system, its menu structuring and placement feels haphazard. At each level of the interface, the menu of options is placed differently on the screen. Finally, within menus, there are many different approaches to scrolling. BMW do center selection, which feels like the best solution, as the user always knows where the selected item is on the screen. It's in the middle of the list. VW, Kia, Nissan, SsangYong, Rinspeed and EDAS showed interiors that are packed with screens. Spreading content across an array of screens makes it hard for users to find and control things. Mercedes have made some advances here, where the left and right steering wheel touchpads control the left and right screens respectively. This feels quite direct and consistent. Staying with screens, portrait orientation continues to gain traction. Pioneered by the likes of McLaren, Tesla, Volvo, Renault, Koenigsegg, Rimac and other concept cars now all support upright center screens. All of them feature HVAC controls at their base, which is possibly a new industry standard. Next, the Ferrari GT4C Lusso adds touch control to the passenger screen introduced on previous models. So now the user can control nav, media and more from their own screen. Finally, head-up displays are found across the board and are pretty generic in their implementation. There's an opportunity here for someone to do something brand-defining in this space. Some concepts like Ital Design's GT0 proposed using a layered display with projection-based screens staggered in front of the main display, creating a truly three-dimensional display. A trend related to the proliferation of screens is tech-led rather than user-led thinking. Car manufacturers seem intent on out-teching each other. More hardware and more configuration options are added with every model, simply because they can. Tesla and Apple CarPlay seem to be the only players following a user-centered approach. Consequence of this is that we end up with a mismatch of controls and displays serving overspec functionality. Audi's driver-focused cockpit crams every single feature and setting of the car into a single screen that can't be directly manipulated because it sits behind the steering wheel. Mercedes are similar. This introduction of touchpads has helped solve the issue, but I still miss the haptic feedback offered by a wheel when scrolling. One of the most obvious signs of a disconnect between displays and controls was the number of fingerprints found on the Mercedes center screen that doesn't support touch. Whilst voice control almost certainly will become even more established as it continues to improve, some voice systems remain slow, unnatural, and inaccurate. Find an address. Geneva. 3. 3. Thank goodness this Ford comes with Siri in Apple CarPlay. Generally, personalization is poorly done. Porsche lets you customize your start page, but the process is painful. Instructions are misleading, interfaces don't behave the way you expect them to, and the result is not all that. Similarly, Renault let you drop your own widgets onto your home screen. A good idea, but the widgets available are limited. You can only add 3 per screen, and the process to do so is clunky, and I'm not sure of the value in having an external air quality reading at my fingertips. I noted that Mercedes had removed the favorite star from their Command Online controller. Asking the Mercedes representative, how do I now save a favorite? He didn't know. Finally, personalization extends to tires. Who knew? If nothing else, a good tire customization demo seems to be a real crowd puller. Young men were queuing up for ages to get a closer look at the tires.